Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to talk about one of those daunting sections within QuickBooks, and that is going to be the settings section. Now, the settings sections within QuickBooks is absolutely brilliant. It's a place where people like myself who really enjoy going into the nitty-gritty parts of QuickBooks can make a lot of different changes, a lot of different effects to how a client can use QuickBooks. But it is a daunting area. There's a lot of settings in there. So today we're going to go to a deep dive and we're going to have a look and see exactly what those settings do for your business.
I told him I can be a fighter if you want. I'll be there to catch you if you fall. I can make it brighter when it starts. I told him I would do it all for you, and I know you do it for me.
My name's Aaron Patrick. I'm a chartered accountant, certified UK trainer from Intuit, and also that QuickBooks chat. Now, this channel is all about making sure that you get the most out of QuickBooks. And one of the things about getting the most out of QuickBooks is making sure the settings are right for you. So let's have a deep dive into what the settings are in QuickBooks, how to get to them, what to do with them, and what they mean. And what we're going to do is take it step by step. So let's go straight in there. Okay, first of all, let's get ourselves into QuickBooks. As soon as we're into QuickBooks, the top right-hand corner, you'll see your company cog. From the company cog, you'll see your company and accounts and settings. Now, on the left-hand side, there are four main sections. So, four main sections. First of all, company. That's going to be where you're going to make sure that all your company information's there correctly, and mostly is what's going to be for external purposes. So if you're going to send an invoice out, something like that, what information is going to be on there? Your next one is sales, and that's going to have a real deep dive into how sales interacts with QuickBooks. Then we have expenses, and we're going to look at see how you can record expenses a little bit differently if you need to. And then finally, advanced. And advanced is where you really get to deep dive, have a look at all those little extra features that could be useful to you and your business. So let's have a look at company. So from a company point of view, you'll notice your first area at the very top here, and you'll notice that actually each one of these sections has a little line between them. Really faint, but you can see this nice little blue line just here. And that indicates that there is a subsection within your main company section. And one of the key things to note, and this is really crucial when it comes to your settings section, is that when you click into any of those sections, notice how it expands. And it's crucial you see that expansion happening. A lot of these settings that we're going to go through, when you first look at it and you first open up the settings page, some of the settings you won't see straight away. And you need to click in there to enhance and expand those settings options to be able to see the settings that are right for you. So now we've expanded them, let's look into them in a little bit more detail. So the first one, we're going to be asked for company logo. So we can go in there, click on this little plus button here and add a logo. We've also got a bit of a logo manager now, and you can choose between what logo is right for you. You can choose your company name, and then you can also choose if there's a legal name and you want a different one as well. So that means you can have two different names. One could be a trading as name, one could be your legal company's house name. It gives you the opportunity to put your company's house registration number, especially if you want to have that on each and every sales invoice going out. Now this button here is really important. So as soon as you move from one section to the next, you have to save that particular section. Notice how it's expanded, it's gone light blue, and there's a save option here. For me to move on and make any of these settings actually come into play, so maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then I'd have to press save for that to actually come into place. Next one is company type. So clicking into here, you can see we can choose what type of company we've got. So you've got your sole proprietor. So if your business is a sole trader, that's what you want to choose. Also note that's the only way we can activate that tax module that we've been showing you in previous videos. So make sure you choose wisely on that one. We have a partnership or LLP. We have a small business corporation, two or more owners. That's your typical limited company. So if you've set up a limited company, that's the one you would typically be using. Corporation, one or more shareholders. So that's when you've got lots of different ones. That's trying to be a bit of a bigger PLC type environment. Non-profit organisation, that's for your charities. Limited liability, that again is your LLP section there. So if you want to be looking at an LLP as opposed to a limited company or partnership, that's what you'll choose. Not sure of it, none is for anything else. You even get to choose your industry here. So if I was accounting, I could put in accounting or bookkeeper just there, and that's just going to help with what's the stats and everything else that goes with it. Contact info. Contact info is the next one. There we can put our company email where QuickBooks can contact you. Customer facing email. So if you want to be sending invoices out and you want your customer and you want an email to be on there that represents that, that's there. You can even choose a different number if you want to. A company phone number so they can contact you, and a website. Next one's address. So you can have company address, customer facing address, and legal. And again, you can choose these as you go through. So company is the first place to go, and really you just need to spend a little bit of time as soon as you open up QuickBooks, just going through and making sure all your personal information and company information is there. Then as you evolve over time, don't forget that if you change your address, change your email, or change your website or anything like that, then make sure to keep that updated as you go along. Next up, we got sales. So under the sales section, the first part of the customize section, well, this is really useful if you're going to be sending your invoice out. If you send a invoice out, then you'll have the option to edit the way that it look and feel of it. So in here, I can go in and I can change the way, I can change the template of how this is going to be. I can change and add where my logo is going to be. I can change and put some color on there as well. And I can choose what font. Also in the content section, I can get in the real nitty gritty bits of it. So you'll see there's 3 sections here. You've got your top section, header section, your footer section, and your activity table section. And on each one, I can go in and just change all accordingly to make sure that I'm happy with the way that invoice looks. And I can go into the email section and change what my default emails are going to look like. So that customized look and feel is basically you deciding how that invoice looks. Now, if you've already got an invoice template that you'd like, there is an option for you to import that. And that's an option within what's called QuickBooks Labs. So in the QuickBooks Labs section, you can turn on a new feature where it gives you an opportunity to import your existing template. So if you've already got an invoice that you've been using for years and years and years and you want exactly that one, then look into importing that. And if that's something that you think is useful, then comment below and we'll make sure we do a whole dedicated video on it. The next section is sales form content. Basically, this section is when you send the sales invoice out, what's going to be kind of the defaults and everything that's involved. So you can choose what your default terms are going to be, your delivery method. So are you going to print later or send later? Your shipping information, is that going to be appearing on the invoice or not? Custom fields. So custom fields are useful. So at the moment, I don't have anywhere to put anything extra on, so I can't go and put anything that I need to. Clicking on any of these options here will turn on a custom field, and it basically means that you can then have maybe make or model. Save that one. Now if I generate an invoice, I'm going to have a new box appear called make and model. Just here, look, and maybe I put. And that means then I can actually start recording against that as well. And it forces me or gives me an area on an invoice to be able to put in extra elements to it. So that's custom fields. Notice you also get internal and public. Internal means that it's only ever going to be seen by people using QuickBooks. Public means that when you print out that invoice or send that invoice, it's going to be shown on there as well. Custom transaction numbers. Now you have the option to turn this on and off. So you can either choose to go from the default numbers or start on a brand new number and give the opportunity for people to change their invoice numbers as they go along. Service date, discount and deposit, these are all options you can turn on or off, giving you extra functionality. So as you can see, I've turned all of them on now, which means that basically over here, for service date, I can choose line by line what that date is representative. So if you're doing like a day rate or something, you can put in there and say what date it was that you did that particular work. Discount down here, if I was to put some numbers in there. Discount, you can have percentage or value. So if you want to put a 50% discount in, it could just apply that for you. And also you've got the opportunity to put a deposit in as well there, which means that up here, you can say where that deposit goes to. Now for all of those settings, they are in your settings section, but also in the top here, you'll see there's a little option for you to bring up your invoice settings. And from invoice settings, most of these options we've just done are available for you here as well. So you can look at adding some custom fields, look at deposit, discounts, shipping and taking them off. And if I take all these off, if I don't use them, if I start taking these back off, you'll notice So now we're back to kind of a more standard one that you're probably used to, where you've just got your terms, invoice due date, and there's no options down here for any of the extra bits. Products and services, this is where you get to choose and look and see how those products and services are. So do you want to show that on the sales form or not? Or are you just interested in not having this product and services there? So remember, I have to save before I can move on. And then I also get the opportunity to go in and look at my track quantity and price rate. So if I'm interested in using a stock feature in QuickBooks, so if I want to be using that stock area, so remember in QuickBooks, under my products and service section, I can have this whole stock section. So I've got 3 out of stock, 1 out of stock, and it's recording every time I bring stock in and send stock out. Well, that's all down to track quantity and price rate and track quantity on hand, that element there. We also have a chance to do what's called progress invoicing. So if I'm going to be using estimates within QuickBooks, I could then make a massive estimate that's for a project that's going to take a long time, and I can do progress invoicing. So I could say like 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever it's going to be, or at different milestones. I can then start sending out different invoices as I go along. And that's all using progress invoicing. You can choose what your default messages are going to be. So you can say what your invoices are going to be saying when you send them out. We also have an option here for automatic reminders as well. And this is quite new to QuickBooks. So it gives you the opportunity to say that if you've got any invoices that are outstanding, you can create a reminder at each of these intervals to automatically go and chase them up for you. Online delivery, you can dictate how your invoices are going to be sent. Are you going to attach a PDF? And are they going to be an online invoice? So that means that you're basically sending them a link so that they can go into it and you can see that lovely audit trail. Or you're just going to send them plain text where there's not much more of that extra enhancement. It's just basically saying that you've got an invoice, here's a PDF. And you can even dictate what your statements look like. So do you want to see each transaction on a single line or each transaction including all detail? So you get to choose between them. And also, do you want to show an aging at the bottom of the statement? When we move on to expenses, most of it is revolving around what's called billable expenses. Now, billable expenses is really useful, especially when you've got a business where you're incurring expenses that you want to make sure you're passing on to your end customer, to your end consumer. As an example, maybe you're doing consulting, maybe you're doing some sort of consultancy service or something like that, and your agreement with that end customer is any travel expenses you incur, you're going to pass on to him on that final invoice. Well, it's crucial at that point from a business point of view that you don't forget to record that transaction. So most people do sticky notes or they'll do some sort of book or have some solution in that, but you actually have the option directly in QuickBooks to deal with that. And that's what billable expense is all about. Let's have a look. Show items table on expense and purchase form. That's basically if you're going to be using the stock feature. Remember what items are when you're selling from items, and you're going to choose what item it is that you're selling at that point. Well, this is if you wanted to use that stock track management, you're going to need to say when you buy those items in as well. So effectively, it's showing the same activity table that you get on a sales invoice, but on a bill or expense. Track expenses and items by customer. That's the bit we're going to be looking at now, and make the items billable. There are your two options there. And even then you can either have a markup rate or you can have multiple accounts. We'll see what that means. So what's billable expenses then? Well, imagine that I've got an expense here. So let's say I've been to a hotel, paid by cash, had some travel expenses, £100, 20% VAT. Now, if I need to record this expense against a customer, or better yet, I want to include it on a customer, that's where this billable option comes in. So if I turn these billable options on, and track billable expenses income and press save. And notice if I jump from before, after, you'll notice down here there's extra boxes for me to look at. So again, before, after. And what that's done is it's given me the option to have a look at billable. So I can tick the button billable and I can choose which customer. So I'm going to choose myself as Aaron Patrick. Let's save and close that now and see how that's affected it. Well, if I jump in and try and create a new invoice for Aaron Patrick, notice on the right hand side I'm getting some extra options. So there's my estimate that we did on a previous video, and here's that billable expense. If I add that in, it's now prompting me to include the extra £100 that I incurred, and there's even a little link here and a little option up here to let me know that there isn't billable expense being included, and I can go back and forth to it if I need to. But the key is that that billable expense included for me over in this section, and it gives me this whole area here, this customer drawer, gives me an area so I don't forget to include those transactions. Press save and close. I've now created an invoice based on that £100 invoice. Back to my expense area, I've got purchase orders I can turn on and off. So if you need to utilize purchase orders, turn that on there. The nice thing about purchase orders is you can convert a agreed purchase order into a bill, saving you having to actually redo it all again. And you can set what your default messages is going to be. And now we move on to the advanced section. And by far the most useful part about this is the advanced section. There's so many nice little bits in there that we can turn on and change fundamentally how QuickBooks works for you and your business. So let's have a look. So the first area, and this is really crucial that you get this right from day one, you're going to have to put into QuickBooks what your accounting period is going to be. Now you need to choose your first month of the financial year, and this is crucial because this will change quite fundamentally some of the reports that get generated. So for example, if I had a February year end, then I would want to put March to be my first month of the financial year. We then have first month of the tax year, so you can change that if you need to. And then also you have your accounting method. Do you want it to be accrual or cash? So accrual is going to be so it accounts for everything on an accrual basis. So it's when things are due versus when things are actually paid, and cash is when it's on the paid basis. You can close your book. So if you're happy that you don't want any adjustments to happen to a previous period, if you click on close books, you get to choose what date it is that everything's clean and tidy, and you can either put a password or a warning to say that nothing can be changed prior to that date. Default tax selection, if you're looking to make sure that the default tax selection is correct, you can choose it there. Really useful if you've deregistered for VAT, because you have the option to do no VAT just there. We can turn on the construction industry scheme just here if we need to. Turning that on will just give you the CIS functionality. Company type, we can then see what the tax form is going to be. So this is different to the company element of it. So that just means that we can see how the tax form is going to be changed. Chart of account, you have the opportunity to enable account numbers just here. So here you can go in, turn that on, and you can even show account numbers. Means that when you go to put in a code, you can either opt to do the name of the code. So now when you choose your category, you can either choose the name of the category or the number. So if you've come from a different software, maybe Sage or something equivalent, you can bring over those numbers you might be used to. 5,000 for purchases, so on and so forth. And you can bring them in so that you could carry on using the same numbers. Choose where your billable expense account is going to go. So we just talked about billable expense and how that works. You get to dictate where the actual element of that, where the control part of that goes to. Classes. Classes can be really useful, and I think it's quite an underutilized part. If you have anything regarding reporting that you want to be looking at in more detail, consider classes as an alternative of being able to make sure that you get the information you need. There's two options, classes and locations. Now, locations is probably the most simplistic one to get your head around. If you've got a company or a business that has multiple different locations and you want to record how profitable each one of those locations are. So it could be physical locations, like geographically, it could be around the UK, or it could be UK versus worldwide, or it could be online versus physical. Doesn't matter which one of those options you choose, but it might be worthwhile for you to be able to run a report comparing the two. And having locations and classes on means that you get prompted when you create a transaction to dictate which one it belongs to. And classes is basically that whole idea of locations, but you get to do it on a line by line basis. So from a classes point of view, you can really deep dive into exactly what it is. And we can use classes to go and look at maybe a brand new product that's been launched. And if you're really interested in how well that product's doing, then you might want to assign a class against it so you can run a report like a profit and loss report to take away everything else the business is doing and just concentrate on that one element of it. And it's a way of filtering your report so you can make real use of them and be able to make sure that you're happy with them. Also, if you'll see here, you have the opportunity to warn me when a transaction hasn't assigned a class. Now, be careful of that one because that could drive you up the wall if you get that incorrect. But having the option to turn that on means that when I run a report, I have to choose a class against it. Otherwise, I'm going to get a telling off. when location, I can then choose the location and put that there. Now the next section is automation. And this could be one of those ones where if you don't get this right, you can get yourself into some real issues when it comes to QuickBooks Online. So I really urge you all to check your automation settings and make sure you've got them exactly how you want them. Let's have a look at them. So automation is all about how much QuickBooks is going to do things on your behalf. So the first one, pre-fill forms with previously entered content. That means if I do a bill for Amazon, that means if I do an expense for Amazon and that transaction was related to post and stationery and I put it correctly against post and stationery, if I have this ticked on at this point in time, then when I go to do the next Amazon one, it's going to come up as post and stationery because that's what I did last time. But as you know from Amazon, you can pretty much use every single category associated with it. So you would have to change it from post and stationery to whatever it needs to be. Maybe computer equipment, something like that. So having that pre-filled forms is a real quick and easy way for most services and most suppliers and customers to be able to quickly get things into QuickBooks. But just be aware, it'll only ever do what your last transaction relates to, it's going to bring forward. So make sure that you're happy and comfortable that that's going to work for you. If not, you need to take that tick box out. Next one, automatically apply credits. If you put a credit note into the system with this ticked on, it's automatically going to apply them for you. And that may not be the right case because what it will do is it will just find the ones that have been outstanding the longest and it will apply it against there. That necessarily might not be the case. So again, just consider if that tick box there is right for your business. Automatically apply bill payment. If you apply a bill payment to a supplier, it's automatically going to put it against the one that's been outstanding the longest. Again, that might not be right for you, so just be careful on that one. Projects has an opportunity to turn it on, and projects is a whole section within QuickBooks where you can really deep dive into putting projects together. And we'll do a whole video against that and how that works. Time tracking. If you want to use the functionality of timesheets within QuickBooks, this is where you go. You can either add it directly to the timesheets or you can make it so it's billable to customers. And what that means is that you can have people who are using your QuickBooks or your users, you can ask them to fill out a timesheet if they're doing some work on any behalf, and then they have the opportunity to even make it billable. So if you person over to do some construction work or whatever it's going to be, you can then ask them to fill in the timesheet at the end of the day, mark it as billable, so that then that customer gets billed as and when the invoices get generated. Multi-currency, you can turn this on and off. Just remember when you do turn it on, you'll see here, you have to make sure you're happy with these options here. So multi-currency is really useful in QuickBooks. It's going to give you the option to work with different currencies. It's going to give you some really clever ways in which you can make that really easy for you and your business. But just be aware that once you've turned multi-currency on, you can't turn it off. And one of the things it will do is it makes your home currency stay at whatever you've already got shown. Now, home currency isn't something you'll change on a regular basis. Home currency is what you want your account figures to be shown in. So is it pounds, US dollars, EU, whatever it's going to be. Vast majority of you out there are always going to have pound coins, have no issues whatsoever. But if for whatever reason you need to change that home currency to a different one, just remember you have to do that before you select multi-currency and turn multi-currency on. We'll do a whole video on multi-currency if you want. Just put those comments in below to make sure we do it quicker. Finally, we just have those final other preferences. What your date format's going to look like, or your number format. Warn if duplicate check numbers are used, warn if duplicate bill numbers are used, and if journal numbers are used. And then sign me out if inactive for a particular time. And there we have it. A look at all those different settings and what they do. Now there's a whole lot of settings there and a lot of settings that will take a while for you to completely understand exactly which each one does. But the first thing I would recommend as soon as you get into QuickBooks is just to go through that list, have a look at them and just familiarize yourself with what's there. Also, for majority of the settings, don't be afraid to turn them on because most of them you can turn off. The only ones you can't turn off again is multi-currency and CIS. So the rest of them you can just turn on and off and you'll have no issues whatsoever. And that's why it works really well. But do spend time looking at those settings. That's the difference between finding QuickBooks will work perfectly for your business and you having to make it work for your business. It can all be down to the settings and how you get that set up. Now, if you have any questions on the settings, don't forget we've got the comment section and everything else, or head over to our friends at bofix.com and hello@bofix.com as their email address to give you an opportunity to ask any questions you might need. Hopefully this video has been useful to you. The whole point of this channel is so you get the most out of QuickBooks, so hopefully that's going a long way to help that. My name's been Aaron Patrick. It's been an absolute pleasure to do this video for you. And if you do like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and get involved in this channel. Again, it's been a pleasure to do this video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
I told him I can be a fighter if you want. I'll be there to catch you if you fall. I can make it brighter when it's dark, when it's dark. I told him I would do it all for you, and I know you do it for me too. I can be a fighter if you want, if you want. I can be a fighter. I can be a fighter if you want. I can be a fighter if you want. All the way that I feel, yeah, I know that it's real, 'cause I can get him out of my head. I don't care what we do, everything's feeling new. Even if we stay in bed, my heart is saying yeah, 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 yeah. You know I want him, nah, 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 nah. My heart is saying yeah, 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 yeah.
Hello and thank you for watching that video. What you may not know is this channel that you've watched this video from is part of a wider group. That wider group is called AppleCore Production, and the 3 channels that we have involved are as follows: Aaron Patrick the QuickBooks Chat, Bofix Tax Tip. Finally, we have AppleCore Live and Geeky. All the links and everything are down below in the description, but it really means a lot to us if you can go and give a like to the other channels as well.